Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this last session on day 2 of the Asian Racing Conference. You will have noticed over the last decade or so that in sport we've seen this phenomenon of a focus on the mind as athletes and teams have looked for that extra bit, that thing that can make that extra contribution to getting an edge to winning. And so we've seen this proliferation of mindset coaches and players whisperers who explain and instill that we have to remove expectations and concentrate not on the outcomes but on the process. Over the same period almost, there's been something of a revolution in society, an understanding and appreciation that mental health is an issue. And sport has also played a very important part in that, because athletes have been uniquely placed to assist society to remove the stigma that historically, and perhaps even now, is in some countries, in some societies, associated with mental health. And they're uniquely placed to do that. We know they operate in such pressure in the public gaze, and it's their job to win. And perhaps they're not always forgiven for having a personal life and not concentrating on the win. And they're also uniquely placed to help society, because if a star athlete can acknowledge that they have an issue, they're struggling with mental health, then why can't I? And that certainly has been a great gift that a number of brave individuals have given to our societies. And it's a revolution that is certainly needed, because anxiety, depression will visit some 5% of individuals in every society at some point or other in the course of their lives. And we know that suicide is the 4th leading cause of death in people between 15 and 29. So this is a revolution that needs to happen. It's something that certainly is relevant to racing. Racing, as we've heard over the last 2 days, faces a number of challenges, and this is one of them, because it is a high-pressure, intense environment. In many of our jurisdictions, it is a 7-day-a-week, 365-day-a-year calling, and that pressure is immense for its participants, and perhaps for none more so than the jockey, because the jockey experiences not just that pressure of that relentless nature of our sport, but they're also freighted with the expectations that the horse carries the weight that the handicap has given them. The jockey's carrying the expectations of the owner, the expectations of the trainer, and the expectations of the punter. And then on top of all that, they almost uniquely, in terms of athletes, know that when they go out there, in a split second, something that could happen that could alter their life and the lives of others forever. And so it's an issue that racing needs to acknowledge, needs to deal with, and I'm pleased to say is starting to do so, just as sport more generally is. And there are at least 5 things that we need to do. One is to continue to remove that stigma that can be associated with acknowledging that we have an issue with our mental health. Another is to provide access to services. A third is to improve the services that are provided. Another, of course, is to make it lifelong. So for jockeys to provide this and to provide this education, to provide the support services over the course of their career and beyond. And finally, it is to recognise that it can't be compartmentalised. Mental health cannot be put into buckets in terms of what we provide to jockeys, in terms of the skills that we equip them with, that they can deal with these issues both in their personal life and in the professional life, and where those two things meet. That's what this session will be about today. What racing, what sport more generally, is doing to understand these issues, to make material progress in relation to them. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers. We have a keynote address from Jeff Kennett. Now, it's quite appropriate that Jeff should be here today because this is known around town as Jeff's Shed, because as the Premier of the state of Victoria, he's the one who drove the construction of this magnificent convention centre. So he's come home to Jeff's Shed. Now, beyond that, it's particularly appropriate that we have Jeff Kennett speaking on this issue because in an extraordinarily distinguished life of public service, one gift that he's given to Australia has been the acknowledgement of the importance of this issue as the founder of Beyond Blue. And so we're extraordinarily pleased that Jeff has agreed to come and give the keynote address today. We will also have Maddie Clements, who's the Acting Director of the Australian Institute of Sport, who will talk about how mental health and performance is dealt with in a high-performance environment. Lisa Hancock's from the Injured Jockeys Fund of the UK, who will speak to this issue of how we provide this knowledge to jockeys throughout their career and starting at the outset, when they start out on this calling. And last but by no means least, Glenn Boss, who I spoke about courage, the courage that Glenn displayed in 2021 by sharing with the racing community and the Australian community the issues that he's dealt with and what he's done so bravely to share that and what he has carried throughout the course of his career. We'll start with Jeff, and now, before he comes to the stage, I'd like you to bear in mind that if you want to ask questions of Jeff, start to submit them via the app that we've created so that David can put those questions to Jeff at the end. Put your hands together, please, for Jeff Kennett.